Welcome back to MidEast In Depth, where we will be looking at the latest rise of terrorism as embodied by ISIS, addressing its origins and suggested prevention strategies. Rami G. Khoury states in the Daily Star that ISIS is the latest manifestation of at least half a dozen other Islamist movements and groups in Middle Eastern society since the 1970s. He proposes three principal realities to understand the reasons for their emergence in order to grasp how ISIS came to be and how it could be confronted and defeated. He states first, socio-economic and political conditions and associated regional international interactions, including from Israel, Iran, the US, UK and Russia, chronically generate miserable, often humiliating lives for tens of millions of Arab families. He continues, second, those same subjugated citizens refuse to acquiesce in their own pauperization, marginalization and political eradication, and will always find ways to express their grievances. He adds, third, such citizen activism will almost always take on an Islamist form, mainly because religion is the most effective means of action for abused citizens who are denied political rights to push back against their domestic or foreign oppressors. The writer goes on to explain that if the Arab region suffers a continuation of the conditions that gave rise to Islamisms in the first place in recent decades, like corruption, mismanagement of national resources, poor Arab governments, widespread disparities in society, poor economic prospects for a majority of citizens, abuse of power, incompetence in confronting Zionism and its threats, subservience to foreign powers, and the dominance of society by single families and their multiple security agencies, then these Arab societies should only expect to see the continued birth and evolution of Islamist movements that will keep trying to achieve their versions of justice, dignity and freedom for their citizens. He concludes that ISIS, the Nusra Front, Ansar Bayt el-Maqdas, and dozens of other small Salafist Takfiri groups have emerged in the last few years as the latest brutal manifestation of Islamism. Nobody should be surprised if even worse responses show up in the years ahead if the underlying problems of our countries are not addressed at their roots. Looking at the Washington Post, David Ignatius focuses on Hidayah, the international counter-terrorism organization based in Abu Dhabi. Ignatius explains Hidayah was set up in 2012 by the 29 countries in the Global Counter-Terrorism Forum, which is chaired by the United States and Turkey. Member nations include many countries whose citizens have funded or exported radicalism, such as Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Pakistan and Afghanistan. The motivation was to share ideas outside of existing intelligence and security partnerships for redirection of terrorist support and potential recruits through non-coercive preventative measures. Ignatius remarks that previous counter-terrorism strategies have failed and suggests perhaps it's time to try the alternative approach of low-visibility groups such as Hidayah, whose 2014 budget was just $6 million. He explains the Hidayah agenda stresses ways to avoid the radicalization process that leads people to embrace terrorism. The first item is preventing education systems from becoming breeding grounds for violent extremism. In practical terms, this means stopping the use of madrasas and other religious schools as a training ground for jihadists. He continues, a second priority for Hidayah is de-radicalization and rehabilitation of prisoners. Prisons are potential terrorist networks, notes the group, because they have become places where radicals can recruit, indoctrinate and strategize. He adds the group tries to encourage victims of terrorism to tell their stories so that young people will hear a counter-narrative to the heroic self-promotion of the jihadists. He continues, Hidayah's final goal involves using social media to combat extremism. This may be the most important mission, given the mastery that the Islamist State has shown using internet to promote violent confrontation. Ignatius concludes, let's be honest, it's too late to stop the radicalization of Islamic State fighters, but maybe their younger brothers and cousins can be deterred from violent extremist programs like the Hidayah that Hidayah is promoting. For more updates, please visit levant.tv. And subscribe to MidEast In Depth on iTunes. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.